In 1978, my wife Gracie and I began attending Heritage Wesleyan Church. Believe it or not, back then it was about 60 people, but the church received us well. We loved the church, we loved God, and we were very pleased with our position and where we were in our life at that time. But after a year or so, I began to recognize something within me was missing. That there was an emptiness in me that I couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't know why I felt empty inside, because I loved Jesus with all my heart, loved the church with all my heart, and yet there was this part of me that was empty. It wasn't too long after that John Bray and I went to a conference, a church growth conference in Marion, Indiana. It was at this conference that we heard a speaker. He was a district superintendent from Oregon. And he talked about a rally that they had with a large group of people, giving them an invitation to plant churches. They told them, "We don't have any money to give you. We don't have any benefits to give you. We need people to come to Oregon and plant churches." And that kind of a sacrifice was what they were looking for from people. Little did they know that there was a mentally handicapped man in that conference. And that mentally handicapped man went back to his home where there was no Protestant churches at all in the city where he lived. And he went to a Catholic church, and he walked up and he talked to a Catholic priest, and he said to this priest, "I would like to start a Church of the Nazarene in your basement. Would you allow me to do that?" And I'm sure the Catholic priest wasn't sure what to do with that, but he said, "Yes, of course you can." And then the mentally handicapped man said, "I am not able to read or write. Would you help me write a sign that says Church of the Nazarene meeting here on Sunday?" And the priest, I think recognizing that the man was mentally handicapped, agreed that he would do that, probably never ever thinking that anyone would ever come. A few months later, the Nazarene leadership discovered they had a church being led by this handicapped man that was running 42 people. And it was at that conference when I saw that God could use a handicapped man to plant a church in a city where there was no Protestant churches. I realized that the emptiness inside of me was that I wasn't and hadn't up until that point in time fulfilling the purpose for which I was created. I was just going through the motions of coming to church. I was just going through the motions of, being at church and doing life, but I wasn't finding the very reason for which I was created. At the end of that message where he told the story of this handicapped man, I remember getting on my knees and praying and just saying, "God, I don't want to go through this life and not accomplish the reason for which you created me." And at that moment, my whole life began to change. Everything about me began to change because I came home different. I came home looking to discover what it was that God created me to do. When we got back to the church, John's life had been transformed, mine had been transformed. Both of us had made determinations that we were going to begin to reach the lost for Christ. I began to go out. I was one of the shyest people John had ever met, but I began to go out and go into the homes of people who had visited Heritage and share Christ with them. And they began to receive Christ. And that just began, a momentum began with that. And we began to see more and more people coming with us to go share their faith with other people, more and more people coming to Christ. And the next thing you know, the church is beginning to grow. Because I found a purpose. I found something that I was created to do, and I did it. Well, years went by, and as I served doing that, and years went by, and then pretty soon, as I was in a printing company, I was a vice president of a printing company, and the Lord began to call me to say, Tim, this isn't what I have created you to do. I want you to go into full-time ministry. And so at that time, I stepped down from my position, and I began in 2000, I began to serve on staff here at Heritage Church. In the midst of that first year, the Lord came to me and He put me in a place where I had to confront a person who was demonized. I'd never seen it before. I had heard about it, but I'd never seen it. And in that moment, I had to help this person who was demonized be set free of the demons that were attacking her. Shortly after that, others began to come to me without any advertising, without any knowledge that we even had a ministry like that inside our church. People just began to seek me to say, I have voices in my head telling me to kill myself, or I have deep levels of grief, I have deep levels of depression. I believe you can help me. And as we began to step forward in spiritual warfare, we began to see these people set free of issues in their life that they've been struggling with for 20, 30 years. They were being set free. And others, seeing that happening here, began to come to me, and the team, the spiritual warfare team inside Heritage, began to grow. After 10 years of doing that ministry inside the church and all my other responsibilities, the Lord came to me and said, Tim, I need you to leave Heritage. I need you to go and launch a new ministry where I would be spending all of my time doing spiritual warfare. Now, that was a scary moment for me. It was scary because I had already left the printing business and had my salary had been cut in half to come into full-time ministry. And now I'm going from a secure position in a large church to launch a ministry that most people didn't even believe in. And there was a lot of fear in that. There was a lot of what ifs. Can it work? Will it work? Or will it go south and will I fail? And yet I had one thing, and that was this driving knowledge that the Lord had given to me, that this ministry was setting people free of horrendous complications and emotional turmoil that they were struggling with in their lives. And I was watching those people be set free and become normal again. And what I've discovered is that emptiness that I had back in 1978 was filled when I discovered the reason why I was created. And I began to live toward that purpose. I don't know of any better place to be, because when you are fulfilling the purpose for which you were created, then I watch over and over and over God sweep in and do unbelievable miracles.